Hey girlfriends, I'm Meech, and in this video I'm going to be showing you in detail how I reinstalled this wig on my client. So without further ado, let's just get right into this video. So the very first part that I make when I'm doing my foundation for every one of my wig installs is down the middle. I always start down the middle. This way I can ensure that there's not going to be a braid going down the center of their head. So if they want a middle part, it's going to lay flat. I usually find that if there's a braid in the middle and they want a middle part, it doesn't always lay exactly how I want. Like, I like my wigs to be really flat, so I always try to make sure that there's not a braid going down the middle of the head, just in case they want a middle part. And then from there, I just go ahead and I braid straight to the back, as I'm doing right here. And I'll just show you guys how I braid to the back and then pull up the tail of the braid into the next braid and then just continue on. And I do that, like I said, for all of my installs. So I know a lot of people struggle with their parting space whenever they are braiding. I get a lot of questions about people running out of space at the nape of the neck. So basically, you want to bring your parting in, like, so say you're parting the client's hair or your hair. You don't want it to be the same width from the hairline all the way down to the nape, because your nape area is smaller. So you want to make sure that you are making that part smaller as you get towards the back of the head. You don't want it to be the same going all the way down to the back, and that's why you're running out of space. So again, when you make your part, how wide it is at the hairline, once you get to maybe like that occipital bone, you want to start to kind of bring that parting space in, so that it's not as much hair, because once you get to the nape, again, there's not as much parting space. So then that way you won't run out of space when you're doing your parting. And then there, I was just showing you guys that I just pull the tail of that first braid into the second braid, and I just keep on braiding. And after I finish this second braid, I'm going to actually go ahead and go into that first braid. Like, you know, a lot of times people start at the ear. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to start there. So then that way, whenever I'm braiding, that tail braid, the last braid, is not going to be by the ear. It's going to be in the middle. And you guys will see exactly what I'm talking about here in a second. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to start where people usually start at. And I'm going to braid that braid, and then I'm going to go ahead and braid towards the other braids, so that that tail braid, whenever I'm finished with all this, it'll still be in the middle instead of on the side, because I don't like the braid being on the side, like whenever I'm finished, like that last tail braid, because I hate that sometimes it'll come out the bottom of the wig. Like if you've had it on for a couple weeks, it'll loosen up from the thread or whatever and come out. So that just prevents all that, and it just keeps everything tucked and secure. So I'm going to finish this last braid on this last side, and then there are two tails that are hanging, and I'm going to braid both of those up into the braid. And then I also want to make sure that whenever I'm doing this, that the nape is not too tight. So you want to make sure there's not too much tension at the nape, which is why I left just that little bit of excess hair down in that back part. Nothing like too crazy, but just so that it's not pulling too tight and causing more breakage. So now I'm going to go in with the Jamaican black castor oil, and I'm going to oil her scalp. Now when I do this, I try not to go all the way up to the front of the hairline, because I don't want any oils to get on the hairline, and then it's going to disrupt the adhesive. So I just put it like a few inches back, and then I rub it in with my fingers towards the front instead of starting at the front, because this stuff, it runs. So now I'm just going to go in with my Gorilla Snot, and I'm going to apply that to the hairline. Y'all know the routine. We're just going to smooth those edges out of the way, just to make sure that they are protected under that ball cap, and that we're not, you know, pulling any edges or anything out, because we need those. Okay, so that's all I'm doing here. So now I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to get her ball cap on. I don't ever pull it like all the way down the whole face. I know a lot of people do that. It's just my preference. I don't know. It's not that I dislike doing it, I've never done it. So yeah, I just go ahead and I cut the ears out, and then I'm going to go in with my glue from my store, Black Rose Hair. Stuck on you lace glue, y'all. That's the only thing that I use. I'll put the link in the description box below. But yeah, I'm just going to go in with that, and I am going to use a thin strip because you don't need a lot. This stuff is very strong hold. I'm going to use a thin strip, and I'm going to secure the ball cap. During this step, a lot of people like to use the freeze spray. That works as well. It's really just all about preference. I just find that whenever I use the lace glue for the ball cap, and then the lace glue as well on the actual wig install, that is a stronger hold and it lasts longer. But again, it's all about preference. So as you guys can see with the strip, I am putting it in front of the hairline, y'all. Make sure that y'all do that. That is super important. Do not put this glue on the hairline. Again, we are trying to preserve our edges. So now I'm just going to go in with my Anastasia Beverly Hills Contour Cream Kit. I use this in every single video. Y'all are probably tired of seeing it. But anyways, I'm going to match her ball cap to her skin. And I like to do this prior to cutting the cap, because I find that if I do it after, then I get the makeup on the skin. And even though like you can use like witch hazel and just different alcohol or whatever to get it off, like trying to clean the skin prior to your install, it's just still not the same. I just find that it kind of interferes with the duration of the install. So I like to do this before and then cut the cap after. Now I'm just going to go in with my shears, and I am going to cut this cap. I always have to be super careful when I do this because these are super sharp, and I want to make sure that I do not cut my client. So this is the wig that she's getting reinstalled. It's just a frontal wig. I am going to go ahead and blow dry that top lace part, and I'm going to blow dry the inside, the cap, just to make sure that it's not all wet whenever I put it on her head. And then also that lace part, you want to make sure that the hairline of the lace is dry too, because whenever you put the glue and everything on there, you want to make sure that it's not wet, because then it'll lift. So now that we have the wig on, I'm just measuring the front and just ensuring that this lace goes ear to ear and that it's positioned correctly prior to me applying the glue to lay it down. Sometimes after it's been installed, especially if you didn't install it, like if you installed it and then somebody else installs it and then you install it again, sometimes you kind of have to figure it out. It's like a puzzle. But yeah, after I got it to where I wanted it, then I just went ahead and flip the lace back, and I'm going to go ahead and apply the glue. So again, I'm using the Stuck On You lace glue, you guys, and I usually use about 3 layers. I don't ever use 5. I don't think I've ever used 5 layers of this, but whatever glue you use, it's totally up to you. It's your preference, and I'm just going to work that in and smooth that out. And this stuff dries fairly quickly, so I try to work pretty fast whenever I'm using this glue. So now that that glue has dried down clear and tacky, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to lay her lace. Now whenever I do this, I am going to continuously move those little hairs out of the way and make sure that this is positioned the way that I want it to be. I usually use a hot comb whenever I do this. I don't know why I didn't do it this time, but I mean, you're not going to do the exact same steps every single time. Sometimes you may try something a little different, and it's not intentional, but it's cool as long as it turns out the way that you want. That's really all that matters. So yeah, I'm just using the edges of that rat tail comb to lay that lace into place, and I'm just making sure that there is no hair stuck in the glue, and that I'm also positioning the wig in front of the glue, like a smidge in front of the glue. So yeah, this part you just want to really take your time. There's no rush. As you guys can see, I'm moving pretty slowly, so I just want to make sure that this just looks as good and as natural as possible. So after you position your lace and you get it exactly where you want, If there's a little bit of excess lace, you can either one, go back in with your glue and glue it down, or two, you can just take some shears or a little razor and cut it off. For me, it ultimately depends on the client, and it also depends on like their hairline and how the wig is already positioned. Like if there's a little bit of lace left over and it's taking up, you know, some of their hairline space and it doesn't look as natural, then I'll go ahead and cut it off. If it already looks good and it would look better staying on the wig, then I'll just go ahead and I'll glue it down. Now remember, this is a reinstall that she's getting, so some of the lace that's like excess lace in the front, it's balding because she's getting this reinstall from before, so I just went ahead and cut it off. You really just have to trust the process whenever you're doing these wigs. Like every step it's getting better, but it's still not complete, so you may still be looking at it like I don't know about this. But again, if you just trust yourself and you know that you've done this a million times, or that you've watched it a million times, and you're confident that it's going to turn out right, then it's going to turn out right. So I just went in with that freeze spray, and I just sprayed some of that between the baby hairs that I pulled down and her hair, and I'm just going to melt that into place using the melt lace band from Black Rose as well. This is pretty much self-explanatory. I'm just going in with my blow dryer and my brush, and I am drying her hair. At this point, I do not have any products in the hair. I just want her flat iron to be like super silky, and I want it to have body and to, like, you know, move or whatever. So I typically try not to put a lot of products in the hair. And I promise y'all, I'm not as rough as this look. I swear, y'all, I sped it up. So that's why her head is bobbing all over the place. So don't cover me in the comments like, why you brushing so hard? Because I promise I'm really not, okay? Mind your business. Now I'm just going to take my wax stick, and I am going to smooth that on the front part of the hairline, and then throughout each part whenever I'm hot combing. And I like to do this because this is what's going to give us that fresh relaxer look, you guys. And I'm going to part through the hair right here. I'm just defining her part, just making sure that it's in the middle and it's straight. But I'm going to part through each section with that wax stick and that hot comb, because again, I want this to be super flat. So I'm not just going to do it on the perimeter and then hot comb it. I'm going to go through piece by piece as well. And here is a pro tip for you guys when you're using your hot comb. I know a lot of times people think that the actual teeth of the comb are what's getting the hair super straight or making the wig super flat, but it's not. It's actually that back part of the hot comb, the body, the actual body of the hot comb. So as you guys can see, whenever I'm going through with that hot comb, I am flipping my wrist so that that back part of the comb hits the hair. And I'm doing that because that is the actual part that makes it lay super flat and gets it super sleek. And she's actually a really good client to do this demonstration on, because when I tell y'all, about 89% of my clients, the second I plug the hot comb in, I'm talking about I haven't even used it yet, they'll start flinching. And I'm like, girl, I ain't even touched your head yet. So there I just sprayed my Kimra's, I want to say it was dry oil spray. I really do like that a lot. It kind of contains the flyaways and it gives a very sleek press. So I do like to use that, especially on my wigs. And now I'm just going in and I'm sectioning off the hair, and I'm just flat ironing it, you guys, as you guys can see. And these irons are my Beverly irons, and I believe they are on 410 if I'm not mistaken. And I'm just doing one pass just like I would do with natural hair, because this is human hair and it's just like every other hair. If you overdo it with the heat, it will get heat damaged. I really do love these irons, but I am looking for some new ones. So if you have a suggestion of some new irons to try, just let me know in the description box below. I do have a couple that I've, you know, kind of been having my eye on, but I just love these Beverly irons so much, and I've never had a problem with them. So yeah, just let me know if you have a suggestion on some new irons. So now I'm just going to go ahead and remove that band, and I'm going to lay her baby hair. I know some people like to do this prior to styling. I like to do it after. I don't know why. Maybe it's like a final touches thing. But on another note, y'all, look how flat that install is. But anyway, so I'm just going to take my razor, and I am going to go ahead and cut those baby hairs down. Just know that the longer you make them, the more dramatic they'll be, and the shorter, the more kind of natural they'll be. So, and that goes with the thickness as well. The thicker they are, the more dramatic they'll be. So you can just use that and kind of play around with how you want your baby hairs to be. It's really all about preference for really the client, not even necessarily the hairstylist. So the way that I do my baby hair is basically dependent on the client. I have some clients who like when I lay them with the Gorilla Snot because they stay in place for weeks and they don't have to deal with them because maybe they struggle with baby hair. I have some people who like softer baby hair with the hairspray and the flat iron. So it really just depends, but whatever they ask for is what I like to do. Hers I'm just going to do with the curling iron. And a tip on that, when you are curling the baby hair to lay them, you don't have to curl them super tight, because when you do that, then when you go to lay them, it's kind of harder to maneuver them and to get them to lay how you want. So just keep that in mind. It just takes like a little soft flick of the wrist, and that's it. You don't have to lay them you don't have to curl them super tight. So basically, I just comb them into place. I kind of play around with them to see how I want them to look. And then I'm going to go in with the spray to kind of mold them in place. But it's not a hard mold. It's pretty soft, and it's going to give the more fluffy appearance whenever you use the hairspray. So yeah, that's all I'm doing. I'm just kind of working them and just kind of deciding, you know, how they look best on her. Or, you know, if they specifically tell me how they want them or show me a picture, then I'll do them that way. So this is the final look, you guys. Thanks so very much for watching. I appreciate you guys. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see y'all, God willing, in the next video. Bye.